2025 NBA Draft coming up later on tonight. Starts at 7 Eastern on the Mothership, and then ABC at 8 Eastern. It's a two-night event, and one of the stars will be Jay Bilas, ESPN NBA college basketball analyst. Do you guys know that Jay Bilas was drafted? Now, this is before it was just a two-round draft. Paulie?
Yeah, 1986, we looked it up, and the draft was 7 rounds back then, and Jay, picked by the Dallas Mavericks, pick number 108 in the 5th round out of Duke.
What was that night like for you, Jay?
I think it was about 2 a.m. when I got drafted. David Stern was in his pajamas. So, yeah, it was a little bit late.
Did you go to camp?
I did. Yeah, I went to rookie camp with the Mavericks. I went to rookie camp 2 years in a row. And in fact, was never cut by the Mavericks. I went over to Italy before veterans camp, before cuts were made. So they actually, the Mavericks, we used to laugh. Keith Grant was later became the GM. Rick Sund was the guy that drafted me. But years later, when I was doing games, I would see Keith Grant at a game, and he'd go, we still hold your rights. And I was like, could you just waive me in the middle of the year just for a joke? That would be great, but they never did.
Cooper Flagg, it feels like if he was an NFL draft prospect at quarterback, we would have negatives attached to him, right? We just do that with quarterbacks. I haven't read anything really negative about Cooper Flagg. I mean, is he that perfect of a prospect at 18 years of age?
Well, I mean, the key of your question there is the 18 years of age thing. You compare him against other players at 18. I think there have been perhaps more, talented players in the past in certain areas. Like Kevin Durant was a way more talented scorer. I think a lot of people believed when he came out of Texas that he was going to lead the league in scoring one day. But, Flagg's not a guy you're saying, okay, he's going to lead the league in scoring, but he does everything well. And there are certainly areas where he can improve and probably needs to improve. I think his shooting consistency can and needs to improve, although it improved during the year. He shot 44% from three during ACC play. The ACC wasn't the best it's ever been this year, but you could see he was getting better and better. And I think he can tighten his handle up and become a better ball handler and decision maker. But across the board, it's really rare to find a player that checks so many boxes. Like he's arguably better defensively than he is offensively, and he's really formidable on the offensive end. He's really a complete player at just 18 and a half. And that's like, he should still be in high school. There are guys that played in the McDonald's game this last year. Most of the players on the McDonald's All-America team this year were older than Cooper Flagg.
And also the situation he's going into, a lot of times when you're that savior or supposed to be a savior, number one pick, and then you go to a bad team because, that's why they got the opportunity to draft you. He's going to Dallas. How does that work for him? And I don't know if it works against him, but the benefits of going to Dallas.
No, it works for him because he's going to be around veteran players that are Hall of Fame caliber players and future Hall of Famers that are true pros. So he's not going to be expected to kind of pick up the reins and sort of lead the team and run with the team. He can blend in with anybody. Like they can play him almost anywhere. He kind of reminds me, his competitive makeup is really unusual. He's different. Like there are a lot of guys that are really competitive, I hate to lose and all that stuff and want to win at checkers. I'll, run over my little sister to win at this. But he takes advantage of every opportunity, and he doesn't go into a game thinking I'm going to get 25 in this one. He just wants to make the right play right now. And then when he stacks enough of those by the end of the game, he'll have 25 and 12 rebounds and 6 assists and 3 steals and 2 blocks. He's that kind of player. So I don't doubt that he's going to, with his maturity level at that age, that he's going to figure it out and learn how to operate within the confines of a really good team. I think that's a huge factor for him in his development, is he's going to a team that's going to contend as soon as Kyrie gets healthy.
Who's the next best player in this draft?
Dylan Harper of Rutgers. I mean, he's the second best prospect. Left-handed, he's got size, really good length. He's got like a 6'10" wingspan. He's probably 6'4", 6'5", but he really good in pick and roll. He's the best pick and roll guard in this draft, and can get into the lane. He makes plays at the rim. He's physical, and so he can absorb a shot and still make a play. He splits defenders. He can his reads are really good. But 75% of his points, this is not a negative, 75% of his points came unassisted. He had to do a lot on his own. He played with another great talent in Ace Bailey, but they didn't have much more than that. So he really had to, they had a losing record. They were 15-17. They were 8-10 in the Big Ten. They barely made the Big Ten tournament. So he's going to face a couple questions about, you had 2 lottery picks on your team. How'd you not win? More, but he's the real deal. He's really good, and I can't imagine San Antonio trading that pick. I think they're taking him, even though they need shooting, and he's not a great shooter. He makes shots, but he's not a knockdown shooter. I think he'll improve there. I just can't imagine anybody else going 2.
Con Knipple maybe moving into the top 5.
I think he's been there for a while. It's a lot of people have said the draft starts at 3 with Philly. So it could be VJ Edgecombe from Baylor, 19-year-old freshman from the Bahamas, who's kind of reminds me a lot of Victor Oladipo or like a Dwayne Wade at 19. Not saying, he's there, he's those guys when they were, in the NBA. But if you compare him at 19, he compares really favorably. Like super athletic, gets to the rim, can really guard, gets a lot done on defense, a lot of deflections, steals, stuff like that. I think he had 15 games with multiple steals and had set a freshman record at Baylor for steals. And then, you could see Knipple. That's possible because he's the best shooter in the draft. But I make a kind of a qualification. He's the best standstill shooter. So 48% from corner threes. He catches it to shoot it. He doesn't catch it ready to shoot. He catches it to fire it up, and you got to take it away from him. And he shot great percentages. But Ace Bailey is the next most talented player after Harper, who was Harper's teammate at Rutgers. And he's a really tough shot maker. Like he can make really he makes NBA shots right now at age 18. He's just barely older than Cooper Flagg, really, really young. But there's some question marks. People say maturity, canceled some workouts, stuff like that, which might not have been the most professional thing to do. I don't have a problem with him not going to workouts. If you don't want to go to workout and you're content being drafted a little lower, that's fine. It's your money. But if you schedule a workout, you should show up for it. And he maybe once or twice didn't do that, and I think that gets people a little nervous.
And I'm wondering the strategy behind this, because it feels like there's strategy that Ace Bailey's not going to go to Philadelphia. There's certain teams he's not going to work out for, and I don't know if that means they are still going to draft him, or does he want to land with Washington or Brooklyn, or is somebody going to swoop in and say, "Hey, that we can get a bargain here"? What do you think the logic is here?
I don't really know. I've heard that's the logic, that he'd rather go to a place like Washington or New Orleans or Brooklyn. But that's a lot of money you're giving up just by, from 3 to 6, or, who knows, maybe he goes number 8. That can happen. I don't have a problem. Look, if he wants to give up the money, that's his business. I don't care. Do whatever you want. But your point is correct. Like, that doesn't stop Philly from taking him at number 3 if he's the most talented player. I'd take him if you're convinced that he's the most talented and he's the sort of has the most upside, and he does at that spot. He's got the most potential, but it's one of these risk reward things. So you hear people say, well, he's one of those dangerous guys that if you take him and it doesn't work out, you get fired. And if you don't take him and he turns out to be a great player, you get fired. And you're like, well, I don't know what to tell you. It's the old Hyman Roth line from The Godfather. This is the business we've chosen. I'm sorry, you got that pick. If you take him, don't take him. But everybody's got a chance to get fired.
Jay Bilas of the Mothership draft coverage starts at 7 Eastern on ESPN, 8 o'clock on ABC. We came up with a nickname for Cooper Flagg. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. He's from Maine. And we thought the rarest of lobsters is the white lobster. So he would have his logo of a lobster. So he's the white lobster.
Wow. That's interesting. And I noticed you said we, so you have collective credit. That's so profoundly stupid. It sounds like Paulie came up with it on
Wow,
his own.
Jay.
Yeah, you're right. He did.
Nailed it.
You know profound stupidity.
That was very quick.
When you hit it. Yeah. He right there. He hit on it right away. So the white.
Sorry, Paulie. I was listening during the break. I knew it was yours.
So white lobster is
that was a cheat code.
Yeah, I was trying to take a little bit of credit there, but then I wasn't going to take any blame. Yes, Paul.
Jay, let it marinate a little bit. Don't be so rushed to make the decision.
The white lobster.
Yeah, marinate a little butter sauce.
There you go.
Yeah, okay.
I do. He has been called the main event.
Yeah.
And Malika Andrews asked him about it, and he said, "Well, I like it. I just can't imagine somebody calling me that to my face." And being a Duke guy, he's probably called a lot of things to his face that he doesn't like. But I don't know if we have to force it. Like I was just up in Maine at a charity event, and he's a god there. Like if he walked down the street right next to Taylor Swift, people would knock Taylor Swift over to get to him.
Oh,
that's how big of a deal he is in Maine. And it's really pretty remarkable that sort of quiet state. They're obviously incredibly proud, but he I don't think I've seen anything quite like that. The entire state, all they talk about is Cooper Flagg, and I couldn't walk down the street without getting Cooper Flagg questions. It was really kind of amazing.
Okay, I want you to close your eyes and just envision this with the upcoming season. Kevin Harlan with the call.
The White Lobster is on a roll. He just put it in the biscuit again. A 17-4 run, and the Hawks want to talk about it. This is the NBA on TNT.
Now you can open your eyes.
Yeah, I'm unmoved.
Okay.
I don't see that. I don't see that sticking.
Okay. Fair enough.
I was asked a trivia question recently that got my head scratching.
Okay.
The last American-born white player to go number 1 overall.
Kent Benson.
Very good.
Yeah.
That was off the top of your head, or had you researched that?
Well, how am I doing? You just asked me the question. I didn't know the question before to do my research.
Well, yeah, but
I wasn't listening when you were told this.
If I would have looked it up, thought about it. But when I was asked a couple months ago, I was scratching my head going back. But Kent Benson is exactly right. I went toward Bill Walton.
Yeah, but I follow the game a little closer than you do, especially college, Jay. Okay? I mean, Mark Allery, I think, was drafted by the Bullets, wasn't he?
No, he was drafted by the Denver Nuggets. He went number 16 overall.
Did he play for the Bullets?
So he went to the Nuggets.
Did he eventually play for the Bullets?
Yeah, he was traded to the Bullets, and still lives in the Washington area. He lives in Bethesda now.
Yeah, okay. And his daughter, one of his daughters, really good in college, I think.
Yeah, his daughter Bella was an All-American at Princeton and was the 5th overall pick of the Dallas Wings in the WNBA draft, and now she's an assistant. She's my goddaughter, now an assistant coach at Georgetown.
Okay, yeah. Has the NIL era been good for college basketball?
Yeah, it certainly made it more honest. I know some of the old school coaches don't like it, and the NCAA is still, fighting the idea of calling athletes employees. They don't want to do that. But my stance on this. This has been professional sports for a long time, and they've been violating federal antitrust law by limiting the players. They're still violating it with this new settlement. But at least the new settlement gives the NCAA some time to come up with a framework that's going to work long term. And that is either going to be, in my view, collective bargaining with the players or going to Congress and asking Congress to make this House settlement into law for them. But it's not going to look exactly like the House settlement. I can't imagine a scenario where Congress says, yes, we're willing to limit the players, but coaches, you can still make $10-12 million, and we'll call this day. Like everybody's going to be limited if Congress comes in. But it buys them some time to actually get this thing right. But what it's doing, Dan, I think it's keeping more players in school longer, which is what the system says they've always wanted. If you believe in education, they're getting more education. and the schools are benefiting because they're getting more years of service out of their player assets. So I don't think it's anything but a good thing, and the players are becoming not only financially literate, they can have generational wealth from this if they do it the right way. You're still going to have some players that blow the money or whatever. That's going to happen. But I think it's nothing but a good thing. They just have to figure out the structure of it to make it work for everybody.
We were reminiscing of players we thought coming out of college were going to be Hall of Famers. Like Glenn Robinson. We just thought, that guy can't miss. There were certain guys where you go, okay, that guy is going to be incredible. Give me the guy that you whiffed on. Then you go, that guy is going to be a Hall of Famer.
That I whiffed on. Well, I thought Odin was going to be really good. And I do think it was because of injury. I just don't know of any teams that wouldn't have taken him number one in 2007. Maybe there might have been one or two, and I don't remember a whole lot of us talking heads, shaking our fists, saying, this is crazy, you have to take Kevin Durant. There might have been some of those, but I don't remember very many. But yeah, that was a whiff. And that's probably one of the things that this is my 23rd draft. And I think when I first started doing it, I probably arrogantly thought after doing all this work that I knew, I know that whether this player is going to be good or not. And maybe having my first draft be the LeBron draft where you did know. But, now I believe certain things. But, nobody knows. Like, hands up all those that thought that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, when he was taken 11th overall, was going to be an MVP. Or when Nikola Jokic was taken during a Taco Bell commercial. We were in commercial, and it was a Taco Bell commercial, and he got drafted in the 40s, and now he's considered the best player in the world. We don't know. You do the best you can, and you have players you like and players you question, and some of the players you question turn out to be great, and some of the players you like turn out to be less than that. It's a weird process. But we're going to look back this year and say, how did we miss on Asa Newell or stuff like that? That's going to happen too.
The former Dallas Maverick great Jay Bilas. More of Jay tonight, where he probably drops in White Lobster. I'm just guessing right now. I'm just guessing there is a casual mention of the White Lobster tonight. And you don't have to give credit. You can take all the credit.
I won't.
You can take credit.
Unless it blows up completely, I'll go, this was Paulie's.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, always.
That's Jay Bilas. Covers college basketball for the Mothership. It's a 2-night affair, and starts at 7 Eastern on ESPN, and then 8 Eastern on ABC.